Welcome to another edition of Journey of Hope. Stories of people in their lives that have been interrupted by different experiences that have come along. Our special guest today is Gary Gerhardt from Alaska and also from Wyoming. Gary, we're glad to have you here.
Well,
we got people from around the world that are watching this.
Yeah, we do that.
And
yes.
I want to have the audience learn a little bit about you and your background. So, where are you from?
Okay, I grew up in northern Nevada, northern California and northern Nevada. My parents, my dad was a builder there in northern Marin County area, and he also raised polled Hereford bull red registered bulls, and we had the man cow over in northern Nevada.
Now, where were the bulls, in Nevada?
And no, they were in California.
In California?
In California,
okay.
There in Marin County, in the back valley there. And so I grew up around livestock in that ranching environment there through there, and really enjoyed that. You know, that's when 101 was still had straight lights all the way up through Santa Rosa.
We're talking about a few years ago.
Yeah, there was only one tunnel coming across the Golden Gate Bridge,
really?
And Sausalito was a very small little fishing village, and that's what the extent of that was. Later in the 50s, during the hippie stage, Juanita had Juanitas. She fed the fishermen in the morning. A little tiny little shop.
Who was this?
Juanita was her name.
Okay.
And if you always wanted to find out what was happening in the after hours, you went to Juanita's and you branched out from there.
Found out what's going on.
Yeah, when the ferry boat system actually gave up for a while there, she got one of those ferry boats and she moved the whole restaurant and the bar over onto the ferry boat there in the little harbor right there. And that was a great place to be in that time frame.
Sure.
So I grew up, in the outdoors and whatever there. Ended up graduating from Santa Fe High School there, and then went on to University of Nevada, Reno, where I got my degree there, and then joined the service.
What did you get a degree in?
I got history and cultural anthropology.
Okay.
What makes a society.
Right.
That there, and branched off into. Then later on, I branched into and got into wildlife management.
Okay.
And stuff. So, but then I joined the service shortly thereafter, right about 62, and.
62, that was a hot time in the country.
That was a hot time in the day.
Did you go in as an officer then?
No, I went in actually as an NCO. Okay. I joined, went to airborne school and joined the Special Forces, the old Green Beret.
Special Forces?
Deal.
Was it the Green Berets?
It was a Green Beret for 26 years. It ended up being.
Really?
And it was an interesting time. The world was a playground. It was a playground. You're young, you're healthy, life is that long. And my wife said, well, okay, go ahead and do it. So she put up with it.
So now, did you get married and then go into the service?
Yeah, I was married and in service.
Okay.
Yeah, in fact, we had a son.
Where were you living at that time?
There in the Nevada area.
Still in Nevada, okay.
Nevada area, right, at that point in time, and then we moved on. But
62, 63, man, you're a Green Beret. There was a lot happening.
There was a lot, and the groups were, you had the first group, which was on Okinawa. They covered pretty much Asia. You had third group, which was at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and they covered the African area, and that's where I got my start of this with third group. Fifth group was still there, but they eventually went.
Now, these groups of Green Berets?
These are groups of Berets. That's
group 1, 2, 3.
One
okay.
through 4. Fifth group was was based in Vietnam and remained there. Seventh group was sort of covered Middle East.
Did you ever go from one group to another?
I have. 10th group was in Bad Tolz, Germany, and they covered Europe and that area. And what was it? 8th group was down in Panama, so they covered South America. So I started in a third group. I ended up in Africa when my career first started. Came back from that assignment and ended up going into Asia, into that, and that became my forte, if you will. That became my specialty then.
So when you talk about Asia, what are we talking
Asia,
about?
we're talking Laos and Cambodia, the Vietnams, both north and south. I've been in every country in Asia.
Really?
Yeah, did that.
Like you've been telling me, you've been in how many countries?
I have been, well, every country in Asia. So let's go. We'll start with the Korea, Japan, Okinawa, which was still U.S. territory, the Philippines, China, Taiwan, mainland China, Malaysia, Thailand, Laos, Cambodia.
You're in all those countries?
All those countries, Malaysia.
Operating as special forces?
Yes, sir.
Really?
The Philippines.
So, I mean, what did you do? Language had to be a problem.
Language was a problem. We had our own language schools.
So did you?
Yeah, we did. So we would always, I would attend the school anyway from an introductory course of about 2 months intensive, 8 hours a day, to the Foreign Service Institute outside of Washington, D.C., there in Arlington. And that would be a year-long an assignment there while you're going to school. And that would be 6 hours a day in the classroom.
Oh, my.
Language,
Just to learn the language. Just to learn the language and the culture.
My last one, which was Burmese, that we ended up working with the individual, was a fantastic individual. He, during World War II, he was a mechanical engineer. Designed the first typewriter that would type in the Burmese cursive language.
Oh, really?
Then turned around when World War II happened. He went to India and worked with Stilwell's forces out of India. His wife went to China and worked with the Chinese units armory coming back in from the other side, from the Chindins coming back into Burma. When the war ended, he became the first Burmese ambassador to the United Nations.
No kidding.
Packaged up all of his household goods in teak boxes.
Teak boxes?
Teak boxes.
Not cardboard boxes, teak boxes.
Teak boxes, because when he moved then to outside of Washington, D.C., his house was then paneled in that teak wood that he brought over. He was very...
He knew exactly what he was doing.
Carried a watch that had all fives. So it was always time for a drink somewhere. It was after 5 o'clock. He was quite the old gentleman. He was the head of the Asian language department there at the Foreign Service Institute. And
so you must have picked up a few languages then.
I did. I have, I think I ended up about 5 of them.
5 different? Which ones?
Swahili, to cover my African adventures, the Burmese, the Vietnamese, the Korean, Thai, and the Laotian.
So you're able to communicate in those languages?
I was able to communicate in those languages. At the Foreign Service, we would actually get newspapers from those countries and have to work with the newspapers.
Really?
Do crossword puzzles out of those and so forth and so on. So it was an intensive briefing that you were doing, so when you went in there, I knew what I was dealing with as much as possible. The history of that area, those people that I would be involved with, the currency, their customs, their culture, and so forth and so on.
Well, before I forget it, I want to thank you for being in the military. I mean, I've always appreciated our military. You talk about 1962. I had just become a Seventh-day Adventist at that point. I was classified as 1A, and the Cuban crisis came along, and I was drafted. I was ready to go, but I just started taking theology, and it was pointed out, no, I'm taking theology. You need to be reclassified, so I didn't go. But I appreciate our military that have gone and done that. So, I mean, you're in the Special Forces. We can't go into any of the details of what you're involved in, but did you ever get shot at?
I have.
You have? That sounds like more than one time.
More than one time. I have actually been wounded 4 times.
4 different times?
4 different times.
Different experiences?
Different experience. Each one was a different experience. I've contributed my left lung to that whole affair over that time because it just could not be.
So you no longer have a left lung?
I no longer have a left lung, but I can still run. Well, I used to be able to still run a 5.5-minute mile. But
really?
I don't do it anymore.
No kidding.
Very, very outdoors. I mean, I try to stay healthy.
Were you in track in school?
I was in track. Track.
When you talk about a 5.5-minute mile, I mean, that's beyond my comprehension. But even with one lung, you're still able to do that?
Afterwards, afterwards. You had to maintain your proficiency. Your within.
It was mandatory if you're going to be part of it.
I became very proficient in skiing, both alpine skiing and cross-country skiing.
Really?
Mountain skiing. We would have to maintain that proficiency. I became scuba qualified, and I was also halo qualified, which is how high altitude, low opening parachuting type. You know,
Halo?
Halo.
High altitude,
low opening.
Low opening. So you go up and then you free fall or something?
Free fall all the way down, and then you're on oxygen as you're coming down through.
Wow.
You'll be on oxygen in the aircraft. They open up the doors. You have your own oxygen on at that point in time, and down you come, you know. And
so what altitude are you talking about jumping from?
18,000, you know.
Jumping from 18,000?
Yeah.
You must have special clothing on.
You have special clothing on and so forth.
And you free fall for how far?
You'd fall until you're down about the 1,500, 1,200 foot level,
Oh,
and then you pop
man.
and come on and slide
Free
on
falling
in.
that far?
If you wanted to, if you were tracking, there you would track to get to where you were wanting to get into, you know, whatever it may be, and there you might open up sooner than that. You might open up at 2,000 foot, and that way you can guide yourself beyond using your parachute to come on and do that.
Just depending on the circumstances.
Just on the circumstances, what was going on. And my team that I had, I worked with, I had a Chinese team that I had recruited out of Taiwan, and they were similar qualified. We were also rough terrain qualified, where you would jump into the biggest, tallest trees you can find. You had a 120-foot rope tied into your side.
Deliberately jump into the trees.
Into the trees, get yourself secured, drop your rucksack down off of that 120-foot rope, rappel down off of that, pick your stuff up, and go do your thing.
No kidding.
And be gone. So it was an interesting thing. It was, you know, I'd do it again if David had let me, but beyond that point, unfortunately.
Well, and you were married almost all this time?
Yeah, all the time. My wife became very, very self-sufficient. She definitely raised our children. We ended up with 5.
5 kids?
2 boys on the ends and the 3 girls in the middle, and the boys didn't stand a chance when those girls got older.
The girls were
they dominated.
Well,
but
you must have a strong wife. You got a strong wife.
Yeah.
You've been married for how many years?
52 now, I think.
52.
52 as of this last
Congratulations.
March. So,
we just celebrated our 52nd.
Yeah.
So, your wife's did you live in different places?
We did. We lived in North Carolina. We lived the family was on Okinawa, where I was gone. They spent a lot of their time there while I would be gone and come back to that location. Then we ended up moving to Nevada. I had an assignment there, going back to University of Nevada, Reno, as an instructor. And
this is why you're still in the Special Forces?
I was still in the Special Forces. It was one of the assignments.
One of the assignments.
And so I was there for 4 years, and the family stayed there. I went again. I became another geographical bachelor once again. And so she maintained all of that, was very, very self-sufficient for it. There was a time there when I was coming and going, that the other wives, the folks that I was working with, said, look, stop this. Every time you come home, it's like Santa Claus coming back. Then the kids get all in an uproar. You're with the checkbook out of whack. Yeah. Why don't you guys either just stay gone or stay home? One of the two.
Man, I can only begin to try to imagine.
And that was that. So we stayed gone more.
Yeah.
We found it was.
So now, if I remember right, one of your children had some kind of a medical problem.
She does. She, at a young age, she unfortunately had spinal meningitis, had gone into a coma with that, and that impacted her.
This was at a young age?
At a young age. She was probably in the 3rd grade at the time. No, before that. Before she went into school, because we kept her back in the 1st grade. She repeated the 1st grade. That's when we first discovered that it had impacted her learning capability to a somewhat a degree. Then since then, she has, she's 49 now. She does live with us permanently because she has developed she has lost all of her immune system. So he has absolutely no immune system whatsoever.
So she gets anything and everything that comes along.
She goes out into the public. If she was to go to work, and she worked for Alaska Airlines, was very well thought of, but she got around all, of course, the impact of people coming and going, and that just, she was constantly sick. She couldn't do that, to the point to where she was constantly coming down with pneumonia and coming back with that. Then she's also has developed sarcoidosis, which is a disease that starts in your organs and goes throughout. So it's in her bones, it's in all of her internal
Is she in
organs.
pain?
Yeah, she can be in pain at times. It's in her brain cells now, you know, and stuff. So that's difficult because
I can imagine.
I mean, and
she's been that way since almost from the very early childhood.
She's always had different events in there. So we we're able to go with that. She's a great assistant to my wife at home. I have learned to live with 2 adult ladies in the house, both trying to give me orders.
Well, now, but you've been taking orders all your life. But you also told me your wife's got some physical challenges.
She had an acoustical aroma. And at the time, this was about, it was in the year 2000, I guess it was. About that time frame, 89. No, it was before that, because in 89, I retired in 88. So by 1986, about 1986, she was developing these headaches. Had a ringing in her brain, you know, and it got real loud, and constant noise in her brain, or in her ears, or in her head, and was getting terrific headaches. Well, they discovered finally that she had an acoustical neuroma. She had the surgery done, then operated. We did not, unfortunately, at that time, did not know about Loma Linda.
Because we do treat that.
And so she had surgery there at Stanford Hospital.
Good place.
Great doctors on it. But as a consequence of that, she lost her hearing on her right side, and she lost that balance nerve on her right side. So she was also a very physical, active person, loved the outdoors, loves to fish, loved to hunt. She's taken her moose and her caribou and the other big critters. And but because of that lack of that balance nerve, her mobility is not that great anymore, so she has to slow down, you know, but although she still continues with it.
Remarkable woman, then.
She is an actress. She loves the deep sea fish, and she loves to fly fish. She snookers me on that. Her biggest rainbow to date on a fly rod is 33 inches long by 17 inches in girth. It looks like a silver salmon.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Oh, man,
we
that's
played
huge.
Catch and release, and but I have the plastic,
Well, now, for our listening audience,
Sure.
where do you spend most of your time?
Probably the majority of it in Alaska, but I spend 3 months out of the year in Wyoming and in the Jackson area.
Okay,
down
a little south of Jackson.
Yeah, a little south of Jackson.
And when you talk about Alaska, you're talking about the Matanuska Valley?
The Matanuska Valley, but in Palmer, the farming ranching community
This is
of Palmer.
west of Anchorage?
North of Anchorage, about 40 miles, 45 miles north of Anchorage there, right on the Matanuska River.
And how long have you been up there?
Since 1981.
Okay,
it was when we first went there.
In 1964, my wife and I went to Palmer. That's where I began my ministry there in Palmer, but it's changed radically.
Tremendously. I think we have now about 3,200 people in that town.
Oh, unbelievable.
Well, we still have unpaved streets, so we're still good.
And near Wasilla, and that whole area.
Wasilla and up the other end, yeah. So it's an interesting area, you know, it's that. And what brought me down here was the fact about 2 years ago, while in Wyoming, I was concluding my business down there. I started having a little bit of difficulty, a little pain with irritation with urinating. And it was not coming, the flow would stop and go a little bit. I could still get past my boots, but, I still had to work with that. So when I got home, I went to my doctor and I said, hey, here's this deal. We did a PSA test, and boy, it was way up high, much higher than, because I've been following this along the line. And way high, and he did the digital examination, and I said, ouch, boy, I mean, that really got our attention. So he said, well, you definitely have an infection. We'll start you on antibiotics, and let's get this thing under control with that. So we did that. I went to recommended a good urologist up there, went to see him, and he said, okay, same thing, we'll stay with this treatment, and then see how the antibiotics and go. That would have been the first part of September. Come early May time frame, I'm getting ready to go back down to Wyoming. And I'm still having a little bit of the issue with that. It's better. We did another PSA test. and it was right at that 4.25 or somewhere in that area. So it had sort of capped itself off.
Yeah.
We had brought it down to that, but it was not going any lower. And he said, well, what? I said, we've got some options here. I said, you know, we have not done a scan on you. We haven't done the MRIs and all of those things. He said, or we can do a biopsy.
At this point, you haven't been diagnosed.
I have not been diagnosed. And I said, well, I'm 72. I want to get 20 more years on this body, active years, you know, healthy years. Let's go ahead and get this biopsy and let's find out what's going on. And it ended up with, they did 12 samples. 12 samples. 4 of them came back, all on the left side, positive. Okay. So we knew we had it. Okay, now what's my options? He said, well, it's a slow-growing type of disease. We can monitor this and let it go and watch and wait. There's radioactive. So they gave me 2 books. I said, well, I'm leaving. I said, I'll be, you know, I want to address it. He gave me 2 books to read, talking about cancers and prostate cancer. I took them with me and read them through, and it gives you all the symptoms, the signs, the after effects, the continuing effects, and the different options of how to treat it, from just taking different foods to, you know, all the way through it. And,
whole gamut there.
The whole gamut. When I returned, I said, well, let's go with, I guess my option is, because he said, the way it was explained to me, the radiation is, once you do radiation, you can't go back in if they miss something.
It's more difficult to do surgery.
It's more difficult to surgeries and stuff like that. I said, okay, well, then let's just go ahead and get the surgery done, and I elected to have the robotic surgery done.
Which is a very viable means.
Viable means. Exactly. He did caution me. He would make every effort, him and his partner would make every effort to protect everything that was going to be in.
When you protect, you're talking about
protecting
the nerves. Yeah.
The nerves, that there was a possibility that I might have to wear a diaper for a bit or for continuously. I would definitely have the catheter in there for at least 10 days, if not 2 weeks. They did not want me to do any exercise, any activity for at least 2 months during the recovery period from once the surgery was done.
And you're kind of an active guy.
Oh, yeah. You know? And I said, that's not, you know, and that. But
so you ride horses.
I ride horses, you know.
Your mind is going through.
And I couldn't see myself sitting on the horse with either the catheter and a bottle on the side, or on a diaper that was getting wet and it was going squish, squish, squish. You know, we don't want. That was not the image I was looking for. And about that time, I said, but let's go ahead and we'll have to get it done, and I'll have to contend with this. My good hunting partner and a business partner I've been working with, and we've become almost like brothers for the last 25 years, said, Gary, stop. When he found out that I was going to do it, I said, I want you to read this other book. And this book is the one that was produced here by a former patient here at Loma Linda.
By Bob Marchini.
By Marchini. He said, I want you to read this and reconsider what you're getting ready to have done.
That book is called You Can Survive Prostate Cancer Without Surgery.
Without surgery. And by golly, I read that weekend. He gave it to him. I read it that whole weekend. Over the weekend. That was easy reading. Because I was already familiar with a lot of the things, so I knew where to turn and really digest into it. And we discussed it with my wife, discussed it with my family, scattered throughout the country, talked with them. And I said, boy, that's got to be, you know, the deal. So I finished the book that Sunday evening. I got right on the internet, emailed the school or the hospital down here. They came back to me on Monday and telephonically and said, hey, we can do this. What are your symptoms, this and that? I gave them my PSA and all of that. They said, you are a candidate. What insurances you have? And I explained the insurances. They said, you are a candidate. So I came down here, interviewed basically the staff here and myself, verified everything, and had to find housing because I knew I was.
Well, I remember you had consult, but you had something you wanted to do before you started.
Well, I had to go back up. I had a moose hunt to complete and an elk hunt to complete.
A moose hunt, you know, priorities. You got to have your priorities. I got cancer here, but I'll take care of these other things.
That can happen. You know, I mean, it ain't going anywhere. But
so did you get your moose?
Got the moose.
And you got your elk?
Got the elk. I had a fantastic trip with the the elk hunt. We took the horses way up high in the mountains, and I had a fantastic hunt. And got home Friday night, Saturday morning at 1 o'clock in the morning, if you will, with the meat from the elk hunt. Left Saturday night to come down here because I had already arranged for a house, an apartment down here, and I have been here since the 5th of October, and it's been fantastic. And it's been fantastic in that this whole time frame I've been able to maintain that active lifestyle that I do.
You've been working out?
I go, and that was when they said I could go to the gym, free of charge, and just go down and hit all the facilities. I went over there, got with a personal trainer for a couple, 3 sessions, and they got me right on the program to develop what I wanted to develop. I walk from my apartment to 4 blocks to get my treatment. I walk from there down to the gym, and we'll walk back again. So I'm getting in a good 2-mile hike every morning.
Every day?
Every
day. While you're being treated? 6
days a week while I'm being treated after that, and I get my treatments first thing in the morning. So by 8:45, by 9 o'clock, I'm done.
You got the whole
I'm
day.
at the gym. The afternoon, after eating lunch, I go up to the parks back up in here. I'm either hiking the trails back up in here. I have been to Joshua Tree Park. I've hiked almost all the trails over there.
Remember, you're sick now.
Well, I know. And everybody's asking me how you're doing, and I'm almost afraid to tell them how much fun I'm having in here. And it's not only that activity that you're able to maintain. There's no prostate. I mean, there's no decatheter. There's no sitting on your duff watching the boob tube. You're maintaining a very active lifestyle. You're able to explore all the stuff that you're able to explore down in this vicinity. But there's also, you get the nutritionist that you talk with, and give you that healthy lifestyle. But the whole program is centered around you as a person and as a life. You walk into the reception area of the treatment room, it's like a party going on. And there's nobody's looking like this. They're down on their forlorn. I'm going to die. I know all of this. What am I going to do after all those treatments over with? And you're talking freely about this. The wives, the spouses that are there, they are joining in with this conversation, the guys and that. The folks making the pod for you, your pod, they're, unobtrusive, they're happy to go. The receptionists are big grins on their face.
To make man whole. That's
and it's all of that that's going on. The gentlemen or ladies that are in your in the
system there.
The system, or all that. I mean, you're getting, you're bearing your backsides to them, but there's none of that. There's no disgrace to it. There's no bashfulness.
There's a very unique culture there. Now, I want you to look into the camera, and if somebody's just been diagnosed with cancer, what would you tell them?
Get on the computer, and check into Loma Linda University Proton Center. It is the place to come and be treated. Absolutely. There have been, since I have been here, there are folks from England, from Canada, and of course around the United States who all have been here to receiving this treatment. It is a supporting element that is unbelievable. That to you cannot go wrong. Absolutely, you cannot go wrong. The greatest decision I have ever made.
Thank you, Gary. It's good to have you in. For our listening audience, I'm Lynn Martell with Journey of Hope. It's good to have you here with us. Remember, God's got a plan for you and for your life. Look to Him and put your trust in Him. He'll take you all the way.